Destiny arrived in the form of a large gray box. In fact, a large gray box inside of another box. But inside of that gray box is nothing yet. Yet it represents a fulcrum, a change in how I'm doing things, and I'm just so excited to hit this chapter of my life so quickly after starting a project like this office. The future archive of this gray box, after all, is me. This is Jason Scott Talks His Way Out of It, a podcast about technology, history, and getting myself out of debt. Thanks to Jeff Atwood and the hundreds of other supporters on Patreon and elsewhere who have been supporting me and helping me get out of debt. I'm not sure I can fully transmit the amount of emotion I've felt as various long-term, possible, almost dreamlike ideas I had for what I want to do with my holdings and my projects are coming to fruition one after another, simply by having a space large enough to regard everything at once. But that's what's been happening. Going after boxes that I have called chowder boxes has enabled me to start making piles of things that previously were in too many different locations to be considered anything like an in-pile. Now, they're all together, and I'm looking at them, processing them, and hitting a point where I don't need them anymore, but I see no reason to go around deleting, destroying, burning, or throwing them out. Instead, I want to keep them. And with the recent scanning of the beginning of my drawings that I did between the ages of 15 and 25, I saw that I needed permanent quality storage. Now, even if you're adjacent to the archiving business, you know about these gray boxes. They are acid-free, they are designed to last a very long time. They're made of paper, not metal, but they have additional strengthening on the corners to be able to take jostling, and they're large enough to take file folders, stacks of paper, cassettes, VHS tapes, whatever that grouping is, and then you put a label on the front, you put it on a shelf, and then you point to it during tours. That's where I'm keeping the original VHS tapes from this concert series. That's where I'm keeping all of my old bills from this production. That's where the writer took all of his notes and put them in small notebooks, and there's a stack of about 40 of them in that box. In other words, a piece, a brick of a wall, of a structure representing a memorial to a set of actions by a person or an entity. That is what has started to be built. To be sure, my room and my boxes of things certainly represented that before. If I had suddenly disappeared, you would be able to look through my storage units and make some general observations, accurate ones, about the contents of different boxes. You would look through one and determine this is where I put all of my old correspondence, or here's a collection of newspapers, probably with articles by or about me or my friends. Here's a box that has nothing but magazines, a box of nothing but audio tapes. You would have, in other words, found an archive before. But these gray boxes represent something new. This is where I have taken them, processed them, made decisions about their longevity or the longevity of the information they have, and then put it away under a clearly defined box. That is, to me, a new dawning of how my holdings will go forward. I've been shipping away items I've been digitizing for others to permanent storage, which itself has its own ups and downs. But then there's also pieces of material which are mine, and I don't want them to go away. Maybe I drew on them, or I wrote them, or they represent a story if you put them all together in a way that nobody is going to figure out when they go through boxes later. I want them, in some fleeting way, to go through this box and be able to at least see the story of what was there. And if they like what they see, to know that all of it, or at least a large amount of it, is in this very clearly marked gray box. I have been the person who has gone through the piles of gray boxes. I have walked through shipping containers smelling of mold, finding box after box marked with a code representing what country it came from or what trip or project it came from. I've been able to go through an attic or a basement marked with boxes that somebody put away years and years ago. There are, in fact, countless amounts of these stories lurking right now in the attics and basements of homes, in offices and warehouse space, in heavily paid-for storage units with unknown futures. They are everywhere. And all I'm doing now is crossing the threshold of joining these others in that story. Do I think this is going to result in a Jason Scott library on the top of some hill in some unknown location where people come in and study my work? Absolutely not. That's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is someone or some group of people are going to find these boxes, flip through them, try to determine if they have any contemporary value, and then discarding them, burning them, tossing them, or keeping them. I'm not bothered by this. Nobody should be bothered by the tales that happen after them. It's just the way of the world. I try to focus on today's stories and the present day experiences I have. And I'll be honest, looking through some of my old drawings, I remember places, events, stories that I had completely forgotten over the last 50 years. Being able to see an art show that I was part of, or looking at a set of listings for a program or a business idea that I had in my 20s that I just never went for. My life is filled with discarded dreams along with the fulfilled ones. Let's be clear, I'm not batting 1,000 on ideas to outcome. And the items that lurk among these shelves represent happiness and sadness, rage, misery, ecstatic moments when I thought I had the world in my hands, and then devastating moments representing financial or personal loss that I took a long time to recover from. Many of them, almost all of them, fully out of the rearview mirror, where I haven't even remembered they happened, except for a small scrap of paper, a note, a desperate printout saying that I was writing somebody a letter, asking something to get out of a bind. I struggle to remember when these happened, who it was involving, how the outcome was. I'm assuming that at the end, I was still here. I'm fed and healthy and happy. Clearly, whatever happened, I have recovered from. But somehow, I put them in a box. The box traveled with me through many different homes, and after a small run under a scanner, it's going into what I hope to be a permanent, final place. These boxes are a little expensive, and in some ways I wish they were cheaper, but it's also really encouraging me to look hard at what goes into them. If I was able to buy 1,000 of them without any thought, I would just make the same mistake in a different form factor. I would end up with things to be done sitting next to things that are done, things relevant to me next to things that have no meaning whatsoever, and completely a puzzle to whoever finds them. The fact is, being a little bit judicious in what I make my legacy in paper and floppy disk and binder will make things easier both for myself, looking back at what's been done, and for others who find it and have to make a determination based on their own scale of value. I have walked through too many rooms of chaos of friends and acquaintances gone to not understand that Every room, every life, every working area is a puzzle. It's a puzzle for people to know why things were like they were. You set aside a pile of papers and really intend to only keep one or two, but there they were, found as if they were some sort of precious to-do pile, with each paper hoarding the secret of its destiny from the new caretakers. I'm going to do my best to the abilities that I have to make it that that's not my case. I'm really enjoying that this has happened so soon in my life. Many people don't have this happen until truly their faculties are beginning to fade, when they are feeling bereft and cynical and tired and in pain. My pain is fleeting. My cynicism diminishes by the day. My energy is still very strong. So, after a number of decades of working in the archiving world of others' lives, it is a huge, ceremoniously beautiful moment that I have this gray, empty box, already sitting with a 1-inch high pile of drawings I did between my 15th and 25th years, and watching it slowly grow with pieces of myself stored, cared for, digitized, preserved, and most importantly to me, finished. This is Jason Scott Talks His Way Out of It. Thanks to James Bekoyanu, Ernie Hershey, Michael Rubin, David Fisher, Dileep Reddy, Sean Kelly, Trixie the Cat, Joey Mink, Martin, Symbionts, Benjamin Guts, and Anonymous, along with the hundreds of other supporters on Patreon and elsewhere who have been supporting me and helping me get out of debt. Somehow when I talk about my own end, or I talk about a finiteness to my existence, people get very worried. Let me just tell you, I've had no diagnosis. I have no medical reports. I have no new feelings or incidents or problems that cause me to think this way. What makes me think this way is wandering among the finalized chapters of various lives over the past couple of decades, where I have walked into a room of someone gone and I have seen what happens to those things. I've been in rooms where somebody has carefully put together a personal library of floppy disks or papers or computer parts and watched it disassemble, fall apart like a swarm of ants attacking a pile of sugar, as the natural processes of a living and existing society processes it. I'm neither horrified nor sad about it. I just feel educated to know that what people appreciate on two different levels are, number one, not having much of it to do. That is to say, that if a person walks into a literal house stuffed from top to bottom with all sorts of papers and food items and various meaningless pieces of toys and books, they're going to just pay someone to remove all of it very quickly, with no real regard to any sort of narrative, story, meaning. It's just prudent to do. Often these homes are going to be cleaned up and sold. There's no time to regard one piece after another. The amount of people who possess an archive that is self-evident, a photographer who has a large collection of photographs, or a writer who has notes and notebooks that are of meaning to a certain school of writing, are really small. More than often, it's a house on a corner with a very badly mowed lawn and a set of grieving or not so grieving relatives who have a mandate to turn the property into money. In that thought, in that process, I know that what I can do, that is the greatest gift, is to leave a set of personal regards about different items that meant something to me and offer it to the unknown future with the words, I really had a great time, and I hope you do too.